Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Seaweed Brain, a Percy Jackson podcast. Today, we are back in the Duat, in the Red Pyramid, in Arizona. Gasp. Sorry, not Arizona. We're back in New Mexico. I just said that to trigger Erica a little bit.
Whoa. No negative words on the great state of Arizona here.
Anyway, these are some very conflict-heavy chapters. There are betrayals. There is salsa. There is a great warrior goddess. There's a great returning guest. Stick around.
Welcome back, everybody, to Seaweed Brain, live from the Doo-Wop. We've got chapters 32 and 33 today. I'm Erica, joined as always by my co-host Carter.
Hi.
And we are joined by our third honorary host today, Sophia. What's up, Sophia? Coming to us from spring break.
Yes, my 2-week spring break, which is amazing. Except when you're not working, you're not getting paid. Honestly, I feel like that's overlooked if you're not actually a hired teacher, that you don't get paid for spring breaks. But I love it. So quiet.
Good to know. I would like to address Carter's comment about Arizona. I have nothing negative to say about Arizona. It is full of beautiful nature and stunning endemic plants and people who care about the environment. And overall, is it my favorite place? No. But I have to say something about being on tour, going to different towns, across America. Shout out to you, Chapel Roan. There are gay people everywhere. And like my last week in particular in Phoenix/Tempe, Arizona, I cried in multiple parking lots where I was frequenting queer-owned small businesses. And I was like, wow, I found pockets of beauty and safety in different parts around Phoenix. There are gay people everywhere. We see you, we hear you.
This is true. There are amazing people in many places. However, I'm not going to totally co-sign this. Places can be bad. Good people can be in places that are not optimal.
I think not optimal is a good word.
There are such things as bad municipal policy decisions and suboptimal design of urban space.
I'm going to say suboptimal design of a theatrical space. Frank Lloyd right, Frank Lloyd wrong. Why was there carpet in the bathrooms? ASU Gamage, run by great people. Love the organization at the ASU Gamage. ASU Gamage, the building, Frank Lloyd wrong. That's what I have to say about that. Frank Lloyd wrong. Okay, moving on. We're here to talk about the Red Pyramid. We are, in fact, in the American Southwest. We ended last week with a sacrifice. The umpteenth time Bast has sacrificed herself for us. Did you want to say anything about that, Sophia? You're looking like you're in mourning.
Yeah, I was in mourning. I mean, especially since cats are specifically selfish creatures, I think that truly is a really pivotal moment. And that's an interesting dynamic. Cats being very selfish, but also being, in this case, with Egyptian mythology, the protectors. It really did hurt me because it's her penance. Well, she feels it's her penance for the loss of their mother. I wish she had spent more time with her babies, but such is life.
Yes, absolutely. So we said goodbye to Bast, and we are waking up in the desert in Sadie's perspective, chapter 32, the place of crosses. Is there anything else I need to say to where we last left off, Carter?
I think that basically covers it. Yeah.
We just fought Sobek, the stinking hot, I was going to say stinking moist. Stinking hot, stinking moist alligator god. Crocodile god.
Yeah, we fought Sobek. I guess it's also relevant to mention that Amos is also back. He basically immediately swooped in when Bast sacrificed herself. These kids, they really, I think, almost always do actually have an adult chaperone with them, which I respect. They should. They deserve it. They are in fact,
children. They are
young children.
Babes.
I think that's something fun that separates it from the Percy Jackson series.
Yes.
They have these mentors constantly with them, which feels appropriate for a story about magicians. They need their educators around.
Yeah. You say calling Camp Half-Blood negligent?
Yes. Camp Half-Blood negligence. So Sadie is waking up after the Bast sacrifice with Muffin and mourning Bast's presence, because it's clearly just Muffin now. It's not Bast inside of Muffin.
It is heartbreaking to know that you're looking at a reminder of your guardian/companion, and they're a shell of their former self.
Yeah. Also because it's been Bast for so long. Is Muffin's personality different now?
I think so.
It's almost like a brand new cat, which is weird. Amos arriving out of the blue here. Sadie is a little bit confused about that. She's a little bit is this something we should be wary of? Is Set trying to just get Amos to get us to be led to the pyramid. Like, is this a trap? And then she's kind of like, well, if it is a trap, it's kind of our only option, so we might as well just go along with it.
Lesser of two evils.
Yeah, and I think that's right. How do we feel at this point about Amos? Let's get a check-in.
I don't know. I feel like the rule of thumb with any story we have, like an ally captured by enemy forces and then returns, is that you really should take everything that they do and say with a grain of salt, because you have no idea, like, especially with these gods and how much psychological influence they have over people, you really do not know if there is some sort of like surveillance spell or bug that has been attached to them.
Yeah, and I mean, in this story, we do also have a very direct possession mechanic that is at play. Like, we're still looking for Seth's host. He seems like he's a decent candidate.
Exactly. He was there.
Not only possession mechanic, but also just pattern of things and people not being what they appear to be. Like, we're about to get the Philip of Macedonia is a Shabti reveal. That I feel is a big point towards, like, you don't actually know in this world of magic who is what. Our question about like what exactly is Zia, like, and is Desjardins good or evil? Who could be a Shabti? Who's being possessed? Those people we fought back in Graceland, like, those weren't even actual enemies. Like, all of this, I think, is lending itself to Sadie being rightfully wary about Amos being a good guy, a bad guy, a guy at all, possessed maybe, who knows.
And she and Carter are on the same page about this. They are, between the two of them, declining to reveal large portions of their plan to Amos in case he is. They're also, I don't know, like, they don't seem necessarily convinced that he's a host either, or like, it seems like that's one of many options that they're mulling. They also think that he might be like bugged, that there might be some sort of other magic that is allowing, I don't know, things set around him to be traced back to Seth, and that there might be some danger involved in that. So they're really, both of them kind of independently and then in coordination are deciding to play it a little close to the chest around him.
It's also a really good moment of their development, because I mean, they went from having like Bass, who they trusted unilaterally, and they're able to talk free with them, and then having Amos, it really forces Sadie and Carter to like look at each other and communicate, like, non-verbally understand. Especially Sadie recognizing in that in herself, she does trust Carter.
Yeah.
We must read the quote. Yeah. It's so precious. Carter and I had been a team for so many days now. I realized that I resented Amos's presence a little. I didn't want to confide in anyone else. God, I can't believe I just said that. And then right at like sweet acknowledgement of them being a team, Sadie has to roast Carter.
Naturally.
About where they're going to go next. And Carter's like, I think we should go, was it Las Cruces?
Yes.
Yeah. And Sadie's like, why? And Carter's like, I had a vision. And Sadie says, a vision of loveliness.
Love her.
That felt age appropriate. I enjoyed that. But anyway, it is true that we are going to be going to Las Cruces, as I think many of you picked up on. Last chapter, we had a little conversation with Jeb, who also was like, you have to go to the place of crosses. Something important will happen to you there. Separate sources are telling us we have to go there. Something important is going to happen. Sadie and Carter are on the same page. We're going to go. And we're specifically going to go there by flying boat. Erica, Southwest correspondent, isn't this a reference to a specific phenomenon that happens in the American Southwest? I have a vague memory of there being like a Windows desktop or something that was hot air balloons going over a desert that I vaguely assumed was in New Mexico or Arizona.
Like the plateaus and stuff.
I know that people in my company went hot air balloon riding for fun when we were in Arizona, so I guess so.
We'll take it. I
don't know. Does the air pressure in the desert specifically lend itself to hot air balloon riding?
I feel like it's more of a wherever, with a hot air balloon, you have trouble controlling where you land. So the desert is a good place for that, because wherever you land, it's the same.
It's very level.
Yeah. It'll be flat. It'll be sandy. No one's going to be underneath you. Money. Yeah.
I will say, I feel like Rick was doing a Back to the Future reference. He's like, who needs water? It's like, very much feels like Doc Brown. Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads.
That's true. That's so true.
And it is also like, this is, I guess we might refer to this as the flying boat era of Rick Riordan's oeuvre, because this book does come out at roughly the same time where we're gearing up for another flying boat.
Yes.
So that's true. Right. I didn't even make that connection with the Argo 2.
He's test running it.
Yeah. Doesn't know why we're seeing how people feel about the flying boats.
We sort of started this conversation last week, but how do you guys feel about the comparison between like the desert of the American Southwest and the deserts of Egypt?
Honestly,
we did talk about those with the Rio, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
I think it's cool to have the physical, because I think we talk a lot about, and like Percy Jackson and this book about like ideological similarities and like constructions of like monuments, but I think having like a physical landscape, environmental landscape, is really interesting, especially when you talk about like, well, I mean, when I saw from America for the Aztecs and their pyramids, but like I think similar like geographical phenomenon that maybe feels familiar, maybe potentially to the Egyptian gods. Maybe like, this feels like home.
Yeah, there is a throwaway line here referencing a cultural mythological overlap between Mexico and Egypt that, as far as I remember, doesn't actually get picked up on anywhere in the series in a meaningful way. Wonder what they're referring to. Maybe it's a desert thing, maybe it's a pyramids thing, maybe there are more kind of substantive or thematic overlaps in the mythology that aren't immediately jumping to mind for me, but I believe could be, comparative literature analyzed.
I wish, since we're doing like different mythologies, I wish he had expanded more on these overlaps.
Not too late.
It's
not too late for the
late.
Right Verse of Madness. It is, in fact, maybe just the right time. Everyone else is leaving.
This is the time. This is
the time to dig in your heels and say, like, Severance, the substance, while you're off trying this new thing, I'm going to dig back into those 2020.
He's going to be fine. He's going to perfect it. I think I do think it's this is just a weird aside, but both Egyptian and South American pyramids have conspiracy theories about aliens. Just a coincidence, but
yeah, God forbid people do stuff that's cool in the Southern Hemisphere.
Of course, who aren't white.
Egypt's not in the Southern Hemisphere.
No, it's not. I don't know why it's global South. Maybe
is it the global South? Isn't the global South the Southern Hemisphere though?
No, I mean global South.
No.
I think no. It's about like European centrality in terms of like
anything that isn't Europe.
Yeah, basically. That's why I've been using it. I don't know if that's correct.
Okay.
Like people like Mexico, I think a lot of people would refer to as the global South, even though it's also in the Northern Hemisphere, I believe, entirely. Mm-hmm. But is Egypt also like universally considered that? Because I feel like some people would also go the other way and be like, oh, Sub-Saharan Africa, meaningfully different.
Well, that's because of historiography. They've changed over years. They've changed how they've written about Egypt in the way that it separates itself from Africa. So that's intentional. So we don't associate it with Africa.
That's true.
Carter, is it you, speaking of Severance, who said, I'm trying to think, is it you or was it somebody from like Pop Culture Happy Hour who said that we are, as a society, transitioning away from the multiverse that is external into the multiverse
that was me.
They
did not say that in Pop Culture Happy Hours episode, which I did just listen to and was lovely.
For people who aren't Patreon subscribers, which you should be, will you speak briefly on that? Because I thought that was such an excellent point. Because this was from our conversation about Severance that you can listen to if you sign up for our Patreon.
I don't know how much more there is to expound upon that. I think that Severance and The Substance are both part of this new push to a different central science fiction fantasy metaphor that we seem to be coalescing upon, in part probably driven by this idea in, greenlighting and a part of the like natural percolation through the studio system that happens where like there is going to be another piece that uses almost the same central metaphor as The Substance that's going to be coming out in theaters, I think this year. I can't remember what the name of it is, but I feel like the metaphor that we're shifting from is like the multiverse, it did its big thing all over the Marvel Cinematic Universe, got its Oscar. We saw a lot of iterations of that, where the central, like, there's a lot, I guess, that you can mine out of the multiverse. There are different ideas people have of it. But primarily what people are getting out of this is there are different versions of
us,
each individual person. Yeah. That exist in parallel realities, that it's our choices contain this multiplicity that could take us in different paths, closer to like I would say like Spider-Verse and Everything Everywhere All at Once explorations of this metaphor. And I feel like the new metaphor that is the defining paradigm is going to be The Substance and Severance, which is like your physical body contains different selves, that like there are different versions of you that aren't like thought experiments in parallel planes, but are like literally that are like different aspects of you that you are alternating between and not occupying at the same time, that are, different things by the different versions of yourself that represent different aspects of how you present in this life at different times in different contexts. given different. Yeah.
Did you see the movie My Old Ass with Aubrey Plaza?
Yes.
I feel like this
I sure
delves
did.
into this. And did anyone watch on Hulu Omni Loop with Iowa Debris and this woman from Weeds?
No, not yet.
It's this older woman. She's dying, but she's able to time travel back a whole week in the past before she dies. Experience this week. She does this over and over again to try to figure out how to stop dying. But it's also a meditation about like reflecting on all the life she could have lived, all the relationships she could have had, and whether or not to like how to process that and to truly accept death. In a sense,
that's also the plot of a lovely 2006 anime film called "The Girl Who Leapt Through Time."
Yes, I was going to say that exactly. Very much that. Very much exactly. I highly recommend it. Omni Loop, Iowa Debris in it, and supporting role, and it's gorgeous. But yeah, we are seeing this movie, especially with time, especially how we relate to ourselves. Like My Old Ass, which I loved, and I feel like not enough people are talking about that film.
Yes. My Old Ass available on streaming, and also something we should have brought up in our lovely Patreon episode about Saoirse Ronan, because My Old Ass's arguably most defining feature is the Saoirse Ronan wall that they use to subtly inform you that the younger brother character is probably gay. Like, he doesn't talk about it, he just has a Saoirse Ronan wall, and at the beginning of the movie talks about how he wants to marry her, and by the end of the summer stops talking about how he wants to marry her and just talks about how she's excellent. Anyway.
I think we should talk about the Justin Bieber sequence. I think that's the defining character, the Justin Bieber fantasy sequence. I walked away with that defining feature. I was like, this is the best movie of the year. Clearly.
I thought by now I would have seen this movie on a plane, and for some reason it has not been on any of the planes I've been on, so I'm going to have to actively watch it.
It's on Prime, I believe.
Dang it, Jeffrey Bezos. And you're saying there's another movie from A24 that's coming up with this same Carter?
I don't know who the distributor is, but there. I know that there is another movie that is also sort of like multiple selves contained, or at least outgrown from the same physical body.
Right.
I want to say that Everything Everywhere All at Once was the bridge between the multiverse and this inter-self-verse.
Yes.
I think so.
Cultural movement, because it was
100%.
looking at the self as a way to create the multiverse, but now we have kind of like delved in instead
internal
of
development.
This is true. And like accessing the other selves from your own. Yeah.
Spider-Verse is about a different version of Spider-Man that wasn't Miles Morales versus there is a central of Michelle Yeoh's character that is the Matrix. Like that is the central point.
Yeah.
Does thinking about possession and Egyptian mythology, does Moon Knight count as one of Moon Knight, and like the idea of using...
Wait, I actually, like that's the one. Moon Knight is also... Mark it down your calendars. That, like, I strongly believe that as Oscar Isaac is making his slow and steady march to the Oscar that he will eventually win, shout out Pop Culture Happy Hour for also logging that one down, people at some point are going to revisit Moon Knight and be like, wow, that... It's going to have its moment. It's going to come
Moon
back.
I think you said Moonlight. I thought you said Moonlight. Never mind. Moon Knight.
I mean, people should always revisit Moonlight as well. But Moon Knight, the Marvel television property where Oscar Isaac plays split personality two people, one of whom is... was it the human manifestation of Khonsu the moon god or something? Like, has some sort of connection. We should rewatch that.
Since Percy Jackson and Marvel owned by Disney, can we have a Moon Knight and King Chronicles crossover with Oscar Isaac appearing in the King Chronicles when we do meet Khonshu at some other later book?
Or if Oscar Isaac's Oscar Isaac doesn't ultimately deliver to us Moon Knight Season 2, can the Kane Chronicles be the Riordan-verse response to this new internal multiverse paradigm that we're discussing? Can we use the possession of the gods and like the internal conversations as some way to investigate this paradigm in the Riordan-verse? Am I pushing too hard?
No, you're right.
I think this is right.
100% right. You're
Studio
right.
executives listening to this episode.
To the executives listening to this episode, the Kane Chronicles is the right, youth market iteration of this paradigm. I think we cracked it. I think we cracked it.
Okay, and that's why we spent 10 minutes on that tangent. Moving on. Sadie is ridiculous. This is just a chapter of Sadie being ridiculous about eating Mexican food in this town.
That was ridiculous. That was ridiculous. I was like, there's no way. Ain't no way. She's like, salsa?
For everything she says about food is so horrifying, and genuinely I feel so bad for her. I feel like it's not her fault. She is from the UK, which
She said that they have Mexican food in the UK. She said that.
She just hasn't eaten it. She personally has never sampled Mexican food.
But I feel like, how do you exist in pop culture, the world of like Western pop culture, and not know of salsa being food?
Yeah, it is a little ridiculous. It is giving the palate is wrong.
For me, it was, we have Mexican restaurants in London, but they don't taste this good.
Well, yes.
Well, Sadie.
Yes. It's just weird to see Mexico in London. I just feel like I need to see a picture of this. I need someone to provide physical video, like, or photo evidence of this, because I cannot comprehend that.
And I do feel like the broader consensus is that the only good food from the UK is
Indian food.
From places that they specifically formerly colonized, right? Like,
India and like Western African food. That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah. And like some like Kanto food, because they like, depending on not depending on who asked. Hong Kong was a full colony for many years. But like,
Sadie's favorite restaurant is Pret a Manger.
Oh my god. She also says the most out-of-pocket thing I've ever heard, which is that she's just eating the tortillas because that alone has more flavor than what she's used to. And she expounds on this by saying they didn't need butter or jam or anything. Girl.
What?
CPS. We need to get her out of there.
The boss, please confiscate her. The
mystery of food that doesn't require butter or jam on it.
You know the Fausts are feeding her disgusting, stale, like hard as a rock scones.
Blood pudding, was it called like something? Like they're giving her the most disgusting food.
I shudder at the thought. I'm sure there's English pasties or whatever, but no.
I have to give a short shout out to Carter continuing to be pathetic, because then Sadie's like, Carter couldn't handle the spice of this food.
He's traveled around the world. That just makes no sense. He's traveled around the world with his dad. You're telling me he has not developed a tolerance for this?
Speaking of things that are gonna
for that at all,
but things that are gonna give him imposter syndrome about being his father's child, not being able to handle spice.
True. Yeah,
that is true. That is valid. Details. It's all in the details.
You know, he's like, when he like looks significantly less white than his sister, but his sister has better spice tolerance. I like that. Carter, that's mentally difficult to handle. I feel bad for him.
I'm back on board.
Characterization.
Okay, fast forwarding through food trauma. Zia shows up, as we knew
Zia
she would.
Zia does show up.
Looking windblown from the airplane she just single-handedly kept together.
Yes, in case you forgot, their airplane got fully blown up and then they magicked it back together to land. And Zia specifically herself landed it with magic and also pulled a child out of the sky back onto the airplane. She's done a lot. Her hair is fresh off the runway. Avant-garde. She doesn't like Amos. She doesn't trust him. She basically isn't talking directly to him, even though he's standing right there next to them, which I think is so perfect, so right, so boss.
A phenomenon I've witnessed Carter perform many times.
Ooh, yeah. No, it's correct. When you know, you know. But she specifically, so she's trying to level with Carter and a little bit Sadie, but not at all Amos, specifically about how she wants them to approach Desjardins, because that is, if we remember, the whole reason that she wanted Carter to bring everybody here is that she believes she can get everybody on the same page. She is going out on a limb to try to reconcile the house and the Canes so that they don't, fight each other before we get to the real big enemy set. So she's trying to level with them and be like, specifically, like, here's how I want us to approach Desjardins. And Sadie is not feeling it. She's hostile, understandably. We don't trust him. French, frightening, try to kill us.
100%. If he's French, what else do you need to know?
Just the 3 Fs. French, frightening, but tried to kill us.
The subtext to all of this is Zia basically saying, I think Amos is hosting set. She is all but going up to the line of explicitly making this accusation. Yeah. And Sadie sort of reflexively, girl so confusing, digging back in. And even though we literally are in her head and know she has these same suspicions, her being like, actually, no, hold up. You're not going to do that to my uncle. I think it's Desjardins. How about that? How about actually you're wrong? And even though I secretly think you're right, I'm not going to tell you. And I'm going to rag on the other guy. This was also the realness.
Yeah, 14-year-old behavior. 14.
Yes. Sadie is being contrarian to be contrarian, to pick a fight, to lean in her own side, and Carter is being so non-committal, weak boy failure, trying to impress this girl, where he's so unwilling to take a stand on anything in this disagreement and looks so uncomfortable. I was also living for that.
He was like, we gotta
teetering,
talk, we need to talk.
looking at
We
his
have to talk,
shoes,
guys.
trying to.
Is Carter a Libra?
Do we know?
Well, I feel like a Libra would actually have more of a stance, a backbone.
Canonically, I think he is either a Gemini or a Cancer. It says June.
Cancer. Definite.
I see Cancer.
Definite Cancer.
But like a June Cancer. Early. Anyway. Okay, we're going through all of this. Zia and Sadie are kind of having this disagreement, but she kind of cuts it off and realizes she's not going to convince Sadie, and instead is like, Carter, I need to pull you aside and talk to you. And it's not just to convince you to betray everybody. There's something you need to know. Which, of course, is calling us back. Like, there are a lot of things that could be going on here. The thing probably most important to remember here is that Jeb told us that there is some sort of key that we have to access. You might also remember that there's one thing left that we need to destroy, to complete the spell of defeating Set, right? We've gotten the Feather of Truth. There's some other component that I'm forgetting right now. The thing that we need right now to be able to complete the spell is Set's secret name, right?
Right.
That's the whole reason why we had this whole encounter with Sobek at the river, specifically the Rio Grande, because we believed that Nephthys was going to be somebody who we could summon there and talk to get Set's secret name. Nephthys is trapped somewhere. She is encased somewhere, some sort of human host somewhere. And she told us basically that we need to find some other way to get her secret name. That she can provide the secret name, but like, we're not going to be able to do it right now. There's something else we're going to have to do. I don't know. It seems like the pieces are aligning here. Maybe.
They're in the air. We haven't put them together yet.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's really, like, only so many pieces that we have left to tie together. We need the secret name. Zia has a secret for us. She was there that night. You know, like, there's really only, like, so many... We've only met so many people who could possibly be the host of Nephthys. In fact, maybe we've met one person. Unless we think it's Desjardins, which seems not, like, the direction we've been going so far in this book.
Right. Right, with the, like, whole gender alignment thing between the gods and the hosts.
For now, it seems like we have this gender alignment piece. Yes.
Mm-hmm. But Sadie's not buying it. Amos isn't buying it.
We see some magicians in the house, and so it seems like our detente is falling apart. We start fighting. Amos straight up just blasts Zia as soon as we see the first person. This, for me, this was a turning point. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
They got me. It's set.
For me, it was
What's that how you felt about it?
It was the chaos magic thing for me. That I was just like, oh,
you're sold.
He burns
chaos?
all the bridges here. He blasts Zia when her back is turned. She is 14. She's trying to reason with us, not looking. You can't be doing that. And he specifically says, she's the enemy, and we have enough enemies. That's a noir villain kind of line. That's what you say in the soap opera when the stepmother has already just shot somebody. You know, like that's not a line you say as somebody who is taking a reasoned, calculated approach.
He shot her with lightning. I feel lightning is one of those like villain-coded forces.
Okay, Azula.
Yeah, it is Azula. I'll say Azula.
Villain-coded. I will agree with
Just
that.
in
I will agree
case
with that.
anyone is reading along with us and hasn't gotten to the end yet, I'm going to say that for me, we usually don't get things set up like this in a Riordan book. I think it is abnormal to have all of this laid out and for like Sadie to like think through the idea that Amos is the hosting Set, and then for that to actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think usually we get like red herring, and then the reveal at the end. I think this is an abnormal structure that we're following to be like aware of.
It is
perhaps what is going to happen.
The structure basically is that there's only two options. Essentially, it's either Amos or it's Desjardins, and they're both here facing off. That's the structure of this chapter. Is it's the two, like one of them is Set, and the other one is going to kill the other one. They're having a duel here, and we don't know which one is evil. We don't know which one to trust, even though we know that Desjardins, regardless of whether or not he's hosting Set, is going to kill us if we let him. So,
yeah.
It is an unusual structure for a Riordan-verse book, yeah.
But the fact that one of them is French is just...
It's hard.
Evil no matter what. Like, with Desjardins, do we really need to even wait around to figure out... Okay, I mean, like, okay, there is the possibility he may or may not be hosting Set, but he literally, at the end of this chapter, to fast forward just a little bit, he summons the most powerful,
That was
like,
insane.
warrior, bloodthirsty murderer deity in the entire canon just to attack us. That's not particularly giving. We have to wait around to find out if he's hosting somebody evil. He's evil right now, period. No additional information necessary.
I think the point to that is like the chief lector can only summon that that god once in their life, and he's using it on a group of teenagers. I was like, is this reckless? Like, I was like, seems overkill. It feels like you're bringing like a bazooka to a knife fight. It just
It was giving Desjardins maybe not the legitimate heir to Iskandar. Like maybe power succession is not correct.
Not at all.
And or we are approaching the apocalypse and he is like very serious about this right now. Very serious about the timeline.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't believe he's going to make it, I guess, to use the arrow again.
Like, well, might as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Could be both. He's also the fact that he's like pissed off at Sadie. I mean, that tracks with the whole House of Life mission, but Sadie for using magic, it's just, he's rigid. I don't like it.
Divine words.
Yeah, like you dare use the divine words.
And he has his own villain lines here that are very like cartoonishly mustache twirling. Mwahahaha. Zia says, Master, we can't fight each other. That's not what Iskandar wanted. And his response is, Iskandar is dead.
That's a very Scar from The Lion King. Like, it's like, Mufasa is dead.
He might as well have said, yeah, Iskandar is dead. Mwahahaha.
I killed it. It feels like it's giving I killed it.
It's giving Elmo in Fire GIF, you know? Chaos.
Yes. A very French thing to do.
But it's okay because Zia is here to help.
And Zia has a plan.
She really 100% switches sides here. Like, she's been wavering. She believes that she's going to bring the house together. And at this point, she decides, no, we simply are just going to have to take him out of commission for the rest of the book.
This is what we needed from Mr. Milchick, and we never got. This is what I needed from Mr. Milchick, and we never got. But it's okay, because we're getting it from Zia.
We were getting it from Zia, but I almost feel like I wanted a little bit more Milchick. I was like, this is a little bit too abrupt. She basically knocks herself out, uses the most powerful trick in her book, which is this pillar of fire, a possessed magical force that is going to follow Desjardins and use up all of his attention for the next 12 hours.
It's an eternally burning magical force.
If Desjardins tries to do anything else, it'll kill him. So he basically is completely occupied until Set either destroys everybody or we destroy him, or like he's out of commission for the rest of the book, basically.
I will have to say that I feel like it's very abrupt because she has spent her whole life in the House of Life. And she's been committed to serving and protecting the chief lector, was Iskandar, now is Desjardins. So all of a sudden she's just like, yeah, so her sudden switch is, I mean, it's not so sudden, but it's very abrupt. But always felt a little rushed to me, personally. I kind of wanted a little bit more deliberation and tension in that.
I do think it makes sense. Like, Desjardins really did not leave her with that many options. He really kind of goes wide here in a way that is... I was kind of surprised by, honestly, reading this back, that he would be so cartoonishly
over the top,
antagonistic. That just about brings us to the end of this chapter, I think, which means that it's going to be time for us to deal with... Do we name her? Sekhmet.
Queen.
She was the guardian before Bast. She was Ra's warrior cat before Bast.
Yes. Why don't we take a quick break and then we'll deal with Sekhmet in the next chapter? Okay, we're back. It's chapter 33. We go into the salsa business. We're back in Carter's POV. And basically this whole chapter is going to be dealing with Sekhmet. So I guess why don't we just talk about her?
I would think I was kind of hoping I would get this chapter because I do think Horace made me laugh genuinely in the beginning of this chapter. I will say that this is the most hilarious thing in the entire book. And I was just like,
that was surprising.
Horace, I mean, it's like you become my favorite guy at this point because you're so unserious. They're fighting for your life and you're like, wish me happy birthday.
Because he's kind of not like this in a lot of the other chapters. I feel like he generally is pretty stiff.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm trying to think through what the in-universe explanation for this, but I guess Bast is mostly just her divine self, and she also has a real sense of humor that kind of shifts and changes as she has different relationships with the kids. Horace is funny. Yeah, he refuses to help for a while. He's pretty funny in those. but also in kind of a rigid way still.
Yeah.
Rigid, but like in on the joke now, you know?
I think it's as his relationship with Carter is building. As his relationship with Carter is like building and meshing together, I think he's become not more flexible, but we've seen more sides to
I don't know. I feel like Horace and Carter
Mhm.
is like neurodivergent parent and neurodivergent child communicating to one another.
But different types of neurodivergent.
Do you understand
different
what I'm
types.
saying? Like the
I
the Ron
do.
Swanson,
I
April
do.
Ludgate thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Communicating their own special way.
Wait, I think, yeah, that's very correct.
100%.
I think, yes.
Wish me happy birthday.
Anyway, Sekhmet, her whole deal, she's been brought up in this book earlier because she was the original Eye of Ra, this bloodthirsty, powerful feline goddess who was the like powerhouse, the enforcer sent out to do all the dirty business. And in the mythology, it is sort of, I guess it's like implied that she got retired because she is so uncontrollable that like she was supposed to target the evil and she would instead just kill everybody, which is why in her original myth she had to be given this alter ego of Hathor, the cow goddess, that is her basically drunk, sleepy, docile version. This is like a pretty common motif, I think, in other world religions also. Like Hinduism probably comes to mind as another tradition where there are these multiple attributes, a warlike and a peaceful, generative, giving,
dual selves.
yeah, hot and cold, yin and yang type of versions of the same deity.
I feel like you see that a lot with like the Greek and Roman comparisons of certain gods.
Speaking of having many different versions of yourself, speaking of diving inwards to explore multiplicity instead of outwards.
Oh, the multiverse, the eternal multiverse.
Mhm.
Here we go again.
Yeah, different sides of ourselves. I like any fight where you realize that the person you are just like so outmatched. So instead of trying to defeat them, you're just going to try to lure them away or like distract or like bring them down to a different level because they have no hope of defeating through force.
Yes.
What I think is interesting with Sekhmet I always found is that she did her job. I think it's one of those stories where like I did my job to completion and this is how you honor me. Like it's when I can't think of a character example of this, but it's like like doing her job to the extreme point of view. And for her, in her mindset, she's like, I did what was right. And what was right is to the extreme is also not always morally correct. I always find her such an interestingly complicated, and especially in the Rick Riordan's verse of like, this is kind of a dark story, dark god.
Yeah,
I always loved it. It's very complex, and I wish we explored a little bit more these themes of like,
interesting character.
She's an interesting character, but not one that we really like. We don't, I think, get to know her at all beyond the concept of her. She doesn't have that many lines. She's not giving us that much personality or relationships. The one thing that we do get is this glimmer in this conversation with Carter/Horace, where it seems like Rick Riordan is, I was about to say fanficking, which is, one could argue his entire career is fanficking, but you know what I mean.
Verb.
It is very violent.
Like, as far as I can tell, there is no record in antiquity of any sort of particularly warm or close or unique relationship between Horace and Sekhmet. She's kind of not of that generation. But in their dialogue here, she seems to be alluding at some sort of special closeness, even potentially of a romantical kind, where she basically says, like, I'm going to have to kill you, but, like, that would be so sad.
You saying romantical kills me. And by the way, Carter recently has started saying romantical instead of romantic, and it's really hurting my soul.
Because it's beyond romantic, it's romantical.
Yeah, I didn't want you to think I wasn't noticing that.
We all got those vibes, right? That Sekhmet is kind of feeling Horace.
There's a weird dynamic, and even Horace says like she was really impressive, but still.
Yeah, it's kind of implying fling, I feel like, or like eons of will they won't
old
they.
Flame,
both powerful. She's more powerful. So
Showdown at the Salsa Factory.
Showdown at the Salsa Factory. This was just too short, I feel.
This chapter,
the showdown. I guess there's only so much they can do because she is so overpowered. Like, it's not like we're gonna actually try to fight her because that wouldn't make sense. But also for them to immediately, I don't know, I guess her weakness is kind of obvious. Like, as soon as I, as a child, saw this, I was like, oh, it's Sekhmet, you got to turn her into Hathor. Find something. And they come to the same conclusion. But
Carter was like, duh.
But I'm a little confused. So is this like Because in the myth, it's like she got drunk and she turned into author. But in this case, she drank a lot of salsa, and I wonder what the effects of that is on her.
I would be afraid. You don't think salsa would go in the opposite direction and be like she's
That's what I'm saying.
more
I was worried
fiery?
about that. Exactly. I thought, is that going to irritate her more? Like, oh no, we made her madder and air stronger.
Oh no, we activated her GERD. She's gonna be a biatch now.
I know. Like I was a little bit surprised to see that we didn't go to the sangria factory.
Yeah.
You know,
or the fact that like she's going to turn into a cow to give herself milk to calm down the spice.
I feel like that is the
Carter
internal
has that
logic.
line.
Yeah,
He sounds like, "Don't you want some milk?"
they didn't alcohol drug her; they hot onesed her.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do mostly see the logic, and I do feel like I don't know. Doesn't Hyperion not believe in talking about alcohol? I think it's not inappropriate for children to understand that alcohol is a substance that can make some people really sleepy.
Eepy. They just turned her into an eepy girl.
But yeah, he just turns to a giant cow. But also, I feel like cows are kind of dangerous too. But I feel like this is just a cow that is very safe.
It's like a metaphorical cow, you know? It represents domesticity and life-giving as opposed to life-taking, right?
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Providing versus taking.
I think I like the A to C thinking of we're going to take her to the salsa factory so that she has so much spice that she needs milk and so she turns into a cow. I like that. I think that's clever and unpredictable.
That I'm on board with. I just feel like we need more of her though. I don't know.
Yes.
Segment is too interesting for this to be it.
I feel it's an interesting conversation about duty and what it like to duty responsibility to the gods and to Ra, and like in her perspective of how to best serve Ra is to eliminate anybody who could be evil, like a total justice, versus Bast's perspective.
At this point, I guess it is possible that she could come back and she could interact with. Well, no, I don't know. Like, wouldn't we want to see her interact with Bast?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Bast literally took her job after she got retired.
Exactly.
Forever. Like, wouldn't we want to see them now?
Replacement cat. She basically was a new cat. I mean, how would you feel? Like, younger and better. The substance, they would say.
I was going to say, one more vote towards enjoying the salsa to milk pipeline, that Carter took something that was very embarrassing for him an hour ago, you know, and he was like, let me use my patheticness as a superpower. Let me take what I've learned from my own patheticness and put it into battle.
Yeah.
Right, wasn't it Zia's idea to go to the salsa factory?
Dang it. Never mind.
Yeah, but like, we're all on the same page. And she knows a little bit better. Anyway, that's basically the chapter. At the end of this, Sadie and Zia are still a little bit giving each other a hard time, but it seems basically like at this point, moving forward, it's going to be the three of them working together to get us there.
No adult.
Specifically,
no adult.
I guess Zia's, well, no, she's not almost an adult. She's the experienced mentor, even though she is the same age as Carter. But it's going to be the three of them moving forward to try to stop Zed. And we're going to do that specifically by reanimating Doughboy into a driver for us.
Dare we say that she's the Annabeth Chase of this trio? Experienced girl, grown up in the House of Life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carrying the team.
Does that make Sadie, Percy, and Carter Grover?
Absolutely.
I think so.
On a personality level.
If we had to map on, I think that's the obvious answer.
If we had to map it.
Yeah, imperfect mapping, but I think that's the most appropriate one. Well, Sekhmet, she should come back.
Wait, can we talk about this line that she has about the blood? Is this Nubian, Persian?
Yeah. That is a little wild.
That was
Sekhmet,
like,
don't be an ethno-essentialist.
Right? I was
about
like,
the blood tasting different.
Since these were shorter chapters, do we want to do a really quick rapid fire what's making us happy this week round? Go around the circle?
Yes.
Okay, Sophia, you look like you have something. Let's go ahead. Hit us with it.
Okay, so I recently started watching the show on Prime Freebie called Sprung from like 2021. Greg Garcia, who did My Name is Earl, and Raising Hope. It's about a bunch of formerly incarcerated individuals who were released from prison in 2020 because of the pandemic, which was a real thing, and they are living together, committing crimes, but to do good.
Mm-hmm.
It's very heartwarming.
Okay.
And it's set during the middle of the pandemic, and it's actually very sweet. Only had one season. Very disappointed, but it's It's a nice little lighthearted story in these trying times.
Absolutely. Okay. That was, what is it called?
Sprung.
Sprung, available on Prime.
Sprung on Prime freebie. I'm gonna go with the cartoon show that I've been watching for the last month, which is Young Justice. Oh my god, you guys are so excited that I'm watching Young Justice.
I remember that aired. I was watching it during the original airing, and no one was watching it. And I was just like, wow.
I somehow missed the show. I am on like the middle of season 2 of Young Justice, and every episode is just so well structured, and like the overall arc is amazing, but every individual episode is like so emotionally affecting. There's been a lot of like loss lately in this season. The animation is pretty. The characters are really cool. Shout out to Artemis, Wasian Queen. From Young Justice.
I got my way in there through the very robust fan art community for the show on Twitter.
Yes.
I feel like the the gay ship of the year is all the different iterations of Superbat, and this is one of the more popular iterations of Superbat for people.
Nightwing and Connor?
Yeah.
Oh. To the extent that it's appropriate for me to say I have a crush on Robin in this series, I will say that. And I will recommend watching Young Justice, which I'm watching on Max.
Robin design. I feel like that was one of my favorite Robin anime designs.
It's a good Robin. It's a good Robin. Yeah.
Yeah. He is Nightwing now, and he's a little bit too jacked, I think, but it's okay. Carter, what about you?
I don't know if you can tell, I'm cosplayed today. It's April Fool's Day, and it's an April Fool's Day themed cosplay. Wait, let me get the jacket. Does
Carter
this
is
evoke
wearing
anything for you?
For the audio medium, Carter has a khaki jacket, a pink striped tie, a white pinstriped t-shirt, and loafers on.
It's kind of a loose cosplay. What's making me happy right now is Chungking Express, 1994, the Wong Kar-wai film.
I was not going to get that, but I love it.
It's an April Fool's Day movie.
I would say I like to amend my what's making me happy because I completely forgot. In the spirit of April Fools, there's a documentary on Max. It's the last film directed by Orson Welles. F for Fake.
Oh wow!
Well, technically the last. There's one that was released in like a few years ago that was posthumous, but F for Fake. Mm-hmm. And I highly recommend anyone who likes stories about art forgeries and the way that cinema is misdirect and magic. It's a documentary about art forger and this other like con artist, but how they're both in the same island and friends with each other. I don't want to spoil it, but it's amazing. And the last 30 minutes is the best April Fool's joke I have that's ever been played on me as a cinema watcher. F for Fake on Max.
Okay. The last thing I have to say before we close out here is that we have some new merch designs courtesy of a Seaweed Brain listener and a patron. So if you want to go to our TeePublic, you can see the new designs. They say Pop Culture Scholar, Percy Beth Scholar, and Percy Jackson Scholar. And these were designed by @intrusive.png. So you can go to their Instagram or you can go to our TeePublic or to their TeePublic. I'll put the links in the show notes. The links are always in our link tree if you want to get some new merch. They also have like baseball caps that are really cute. I want to get one that says Percy Beth Scholar on it personally. So yeah, go check out that merch. Order it. If you order it, tag us, tag @intrusive.png, and we will see you guys next time.
Yeah, bye all.
Bye.